Hello.
Oh my gosh, that was so.
You got what you wanted? What we wanted?
Yes, it's, oh gosh. Anyway, I haven't thought about that little girl in so long. Yeah. All right. So
Oh, that little girl, the one you told me the story about.
I'll have to send you the pages that she wrote.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see whatever.
Yeah, I'll have to dig those up because she made this beautiful painting and it said, "Where all little girls are safe." And wow, so.
Well, and it's so fascinating, the experience of being a witness to a crime.
Yes.
And that's whiteness too. I mean, that it's so useful.
Yes. Yes.
In
yes.
terms of talking about whiteness, when you're a witness to a crime, what's
Right.
your responsibility?
Right. And that in answering a question in class, I mean, I think about this book, What You Don't Know, that we're about to dive into. And I think about this idea that a teacher gets a question in class. And when I was thinking about What You Don't Know, and this book has so many things I want to dive into with you, but one of them is sort of tied to that prior conversation, in that what you don't know may be living in a question that seems completely unrelated to an event. You know, that like her asking me, did little girls who were enslaved get raped? What if I had said, oh, we're not going to talk about that? Or, you know, it would have been the equivalent of me saying, are you sure? About a specific incident. And I think this, this power that you have as an adult, as a teacher or whomever, when you're being asked questions that require hard, truthful answers, you don't always know. It's what you don't know.
You don't always know the answer?
You don't always know what the actual question is. She was really wanting to know, did I see what I think I saw? Is it possible that that could happen? Yes, it is possible. Yes, it's very likely that little girls who were enslaved were raped. And in fact, there's quite a bit of evidence to that fact. So yes, yes. Instead of, we're not going to talk about that, or that's not what we're talking about today.
Why are you thinking about that?
Yeah, exactly. Or, you know, let's talk about that privately, not in class. That's one that happens a lot. But by giving an answer to a student who's asking a question in earnest, we just can't always know what we don't know.
You know, we don't know what's behind the question behind the question.
Yes. And she can't ask, she can't say, I think I saw this when I was in kindergarten. Did I see that?
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what she really wants to know is it possible that I saw that? That's what I saw. Does that happen?
Right.
Yes.
And she didn't need you to say,
yes.
Well, it used to, but it doesn't anymore. Or
right.
But it's not supposed to.
Right.
Just,
yes.
Were they raped? Yes or no? Yes.
Yes. So now you have this sweet baby. Oh my gosh.
Me too.
So in love with.
You know what I often forget is that he starts that book as a baby.
And
sometimes I open the book and I'm like, oh yeah, I started this when he was still a baby.
Well, I wanted to ask you if it's, and again, you know, you don't need to.
Yeah.
It's very personal, and that's okay. If you say, I don't really want to talk about that with a public space. And you know, we're recording, but I don't have to use it.
It's okay, I trust.
And I did not prepare you for this question, and I apologize for that.
I'm prepared. If I put it in there, I'm prepared for it.
Okay. You're so generous. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I would like to start with this dedication page, actually.
To Abraham.
Yes, very much intrigued me.
Yeah.
And I think will intrigue many people.
Yeah.
For Abraham, whose 1980s childhood in a small homophobic town radicalized me. And for Moxie, am I pronouncing that correctly? Who is real and free right now, today. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Thank
It
you.
feels pretty big and important to me.
It is. It is. My brother was gay. He knew he was gay from
Okay.
older than me,
Okay.
just one grade older, but like 21 months, you know, so we were pretty close.
Okay. And is this Moxie or Abraham?
This is Abraham. First Abraham, and
Okay.
then I'll tell you about Moxie.
Got it.
So Abraham knew from the time he was like, you know, just the whole time.
Okay.
From the time there was anything to notice, he
Right.
noticed he was different.
Hmm.
You know, his perception was, I am not like that. I
Interesting.
don't know what this is, but I'm not like them.
I'm
And
not
then started getting the feedback.
Okay.
He called the hurtful words.
Oh.
No, before you know what the word faggot is, you're being called it. Same, you know, it's just one of those hurtful words that it comes at you. And it's
When
like,
he was very young, this happened?
is that? Yeah, grade school. But as soon as he started going to school.
And what caused his peers to perceive him that way?
Good question.
Does he know?
He knew something was different.
Okay.
They sensed something was different.
Huh.
And
Okay.
the difference was then just turned into this epithet, into this slur,
Okay.
and came at him. And then remember the beautiful movie Moonlight,
Sure.
where the child asks Mahershala Ali's character, what is a faggot? And he says it's a word that's used to hurt gay people.
Right.
I think that was his answer. I think it was that.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Spare. And so initially I was going to make this book was going to be about Abraham, kind of, you know, me processing what it was like to be a witness to crime, you know, in the sense of, here's my brother who is on the receiving end of so much verbal abuse and threats and throughout school years.
Okay.
Kindergarten to 12th grade.
Okay.
And then, I mean, this guy was like, get me out of this town. And my father was very,
Wow.
he was also very insistent, like, get his words that he would say to this all to us all the time, get your education and get the hell out of this town.
Really?
Yeah. And he really kind of poisoned us against Washington, PA. And so for a time, especially in the 80s, when that was what the culture was doing, we were really snobbish, and we were like, we're leaving this town. And by we, I mean the whole entire, you know, the 5 of us kids, we were like a little gang.
Okay.
And we really bought into the snobbishness and the elitism of 80s. But there was this idea of like, you're not safe here and you're not going to grow here.
Okay.
Now for my brother, he was actually not safe. He was, I mean, the Christianity.
Okay.
And whiteness too. I mean, because he looked ethnic.
Oh.
He, you know, my grandmother, who is Syrian, was kind of brown Syrian.
Of course, yeah.
You know how there are, you know, there's
I do, yeah. I have a lot of students from that realm, yeah.
And sometimes Syrian skin tone is really, really pale, and sometimes it's a little bit darker. And my grandmother was brown Syrian, and Abraham, just his body, his facial features and everything showed a lot of that. And so he was getting some anti-blackness. Like,
of course, yeah, of course, yeah.
But that didn't, and I don't mean, he wasn't getting it direct, he was getting it indirect, right?
No, yeah, right.
But he felt that othered status and that outsider status. I mean, that was being reinforced from a really young age, but seriously in danger.
Yeah.
physically harmed, verbally harmed, constantly harassed, adults and children. Sunday school teachers, coaches, teachers, public humiliation, things like that. And so
And
he,
teachers
so
too?
that,
The
what's that?
teachers and coaches too?
Yeah, we had really, our schools
That's brutal.
were notorious for the teachers just acting out of, the male teachers in particular, acting just out of bounds all the time, having sex with students,
Wow.
threatening, harassing the kids. And,
Okay.
yeah, and these were some of the most prestigious, like they're still revered in my town.
Oh my gosh.
This is the town that Jerry Sandusky came from.
Oh, wow.
The town. So we had a culture there. And
that explains a lot. Okay.
yeah, when I learned of Jerry Sandusky and the connection to the Bronson House in Washington, PA, which is where I went to nursery school, it was just like,
Oh,
yeah, he feels very familiar.
yeah.
So that,
So that is the culture
it's the culture.
of the town.
It was.
Huh.
It
Okay.
certainly was.
So
And,
when you reference that, you describe it as a homophobic town.
yeah,
And so it sounds like this whole understanding that we have, that you and I have talked about, of whiteness and just in general, if the soil is right, it is there, that cultivates that, everything else grows too.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
that's where he was living.
That's the air that he was breathing. And it was the 80s. And so the AIDS epidemic and
Right.
pandemic.
Yeah.
So, and the belief that this was the punishment for being, that it's the worst thing to be. So I observed and felt his experience growing up of being targeted and being in danger. And so when I first was writing the book, I was between that world and this one.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was Moxie,
Okay.
the child of at the time, director of the Brooklyn Free School.
Okay.
Their child
Okay.
comes out to them at 11 years old.
Okay.
I'm gay, or I'm queer. Queer was the word. And you need to tell grandma. Like, we're going to do this. We're not, like, the whole family is going to know what I know. And we are going to evolve. Like, I'm not telling you, but please don't tell grandma because I don't want her to not love me anymore. It was, here's who I am. And we're telling grandma. And it was in, the story of this is in the Raising Rebels podcast.
Okay.
The first episodes, the first season of the Raising Rebels podcast.
Oh, okay.
Nolika and Moxie tell their story.
Okay.
About telling grandma about this experience in their lives and how it radicalized the whole family. And so Moxie went to school with my youngest son, and they were friends. They weren't like close friends, hang out all the time, but they played together at school all the time because that's what happens at that school. It's mixed age learning. And Moxie's only like a year or two older than my youngest son. And so when I heard this story about Moxie, I was like, okay, there is an experience of knowing yourself as queer now, right now, today, that is not the same as the trauma that my brother experienced. And yet both are still real depending on where you're born. What family you're born into. What are the environments that you're trying to grow up in. And so I wanted to come to this spot, this moment now, and tell the story and acknowledge some of those elements.
Okay.
Some of the things that my brother faced. But I wanted to situate the child in the book in conditions that would support and affirm the whole fullness of their identity, including Black identity, including you see me as Black, but I see me as everything, you know, like,
Yeah.
And so I wanted the characters, so that Demetrius character
Mm-hmm.
is between,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and there's that moment where the Demetrius character is sitting on the couch with their mom,
Mm-hmm.
and they know that they're in that home,
Mm-hmm.
but they're thinking about, but what about when they're not? What about when you're me, but in a home where you're not safe?
Right.
And, you know, and they are like vibrationally feeling their affinity to all the queer kids in all the houses.
Right.
And so it's not like a free and clear, like, look at me, I'm free. It's like, everybody needs to be free. I'm not free yet.
Right.
So that's the two of them. And then I put Moxie right in the book, and then invited Moxie to be the child Moxie to be part of the creative process. So, or at least bear witness to the creative process and participate as much as they wanted to.
Okay.
And Moxie is a child of few words, but you know, willingly met with me and sat, and I read the whole script to them before I started to illustrate.
Okay.
And I knew Moxie wasn't going to be like, you know, what you should do is this. And, you know, I knew them well enough to know that they were probably going to be kind of reserved, but so that I needed to read their body language. I needed to see what happened to their eyes when I was talking. If I said something, you know, like if I'm not sure of a choice and I needed to look at their face and see if it didn't land right, or if it landed bad, or,
Mm-hmm.
but so, yeah, so before I even drew anything, I sat with Moxie and read it and got their permission to put them in the book. And can I use your name? Can I use your image? And yes, yes, yes. And Moxie's an artist too, so was very interested in the artistic process. And so that's the dedication, is to those different realities, the reality of really not being safe.
Yeah.
And the reality of really being free.
Right.
In yourself, and knowing that the ones who have the problem are the ones with the problem.
Right. Right.
I am pulling in my resources and my supports, and I insist that I be free. You know, that's Moxie's role in the story.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Moxie is skating at the end, just like unencumbered.
Yeah.
Imagine me, like,
yeah.
Are you ready for me? You know, like it doesn't matter if you're ready for me, because I am, you know, so yeah. I wanted that, and I wanted the two of them to be about that, like, you know, get off of us. Get off of us. Whatever you think you know, we'll let you know.
And how is Abraham now?
Amazing. Wonderful.
Happy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And happy. And also it's still in there.
Yeah.
Still sore. I mean, he's been very professionally successful as a writer.
Oh, good.
And professionally, financially, you know, in those ways. And you know, extremely generous and beautiful human being. But that stuff remains. That stuff followed him. And when I made the book, I'll try to say this part quickly. It was about to go to print.
Okay.
The next day.
Okay.
The next day. And I didn't send it to him until the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
I did not involve him in the process.
Okay.
Only Moxie. And when I sent it to him, he felt a real imbalance. It was tipped too much toward, we're free now.
Mm-hmm.
Leave us alone. Because he didn't feel validated in the ways that he had seen. He was like, you know, your central characters in your other books, there's these moments of extreme vulnerability where we see them in trouble.
Mhm.
We see them.
Yeah. Right.
And I don't see that with this character.
Okay.
What are you doing? It's like a little too safe for him.
Okay.
And so I don't believe it.
Mm.
And so we talked more, and I can't recall everything, but it was enough. His reaction was enough that I said, I got it. He said, I'm not telling you to change it. I'm just telling you I don't feel like I'm in there. And it's not about me, but my experience is not validated by this book.
Kind of like when in Not My Idea, was it Reverend Angel that said to you,
Mm-hmm.
no, I need to see myself. Now I see myself in there.
Yes. Yeah.
Am I getting that right?
Yeah. And Not My Idea. And then as soon as I handed Reverend Angel the book,
Yeah.
she turns to that page and says, that's me.
Got it.
Because
Okay.
I feel like I made this book.
Yes. Okay.
Right. So yes, that was what Abraham was like.
Mm-hmm.
Something, you left something out. You didn't, and it happens to me in every book. I do this in every book.
Mm.
I get to the point of where the really bad thing needs to happen to the child, and then I back up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do it. I don't go through with it. And then my people who I invite to, or who offer to look at it, say, go, do the pain. We can handle it. Do the pain, do the painful thing. But then sometimes I go far and they're like, oh, not that, come back. I'm trying,
Right.
to find that spot. But with Abraham, I got off the phone and I said, I got it. He was like, I don't want you to mess anything up. It's going to print tomorrow. I was like, I got it. I know what I'm going to do. And I just I took a few hours. I called Jennifer, my publisher, and said, this is what I had a conversation with Abraham. I think I know what to do. And I just gave myself the time. There was no time, but there was enough time. And then I rewrote. I didn't change the images, but I rewrote several pages.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
And
it would be interesting.
So much better.
Yeah. And I will say I'm going to make a note of that if it's okay with you, because I think for us to really embrace the whole of the story that you're telling right now, what I'm imagining as I listen to you is that Abraham would have spoken for so many people clearly.
Yeah.
And that the changes you would have made, something that occurs to me is that the changes you made are the changes we need to make.
Mm.
That we need to learn what those adjustments were, because they may be adjustments that you've identified we all need to make in our relationship to this history. Because when I step way back and listen to you, what I hear is what we've all lived through, those of us who have been alive for enough time.
Yeah.
That we've seen all of that evolve.
Yeah.
And how have we adjusted internally to it as human beings? Because we are going to be in spaces with children who are Abraham, who are living with that.
Yeah.
And then everything in between that, the space that you negotiated, where you wanted to somehow, it's like the arc of a rainbow, it's just, that always makes me think. I know a lot of people, when they think of Pride Month, they think of that rainbow, and I always think of it as this arc rather than just the colors.
Oh, interesting.
And that it's an arc of an experience that's, there's sort of this melting into the earth of the light that makes the rainbow. And I think those adjustments in the space of that arc
Yeah.
that you made
Mm.
are, they feel really important to me. So
Mm.
maybe we can, in future conversations, start diving into those pages.
Mm-hmm.
If you're open to that, because I hear in that, oh, I need to know what those adjustments you made are.
Yeah.
Are those adjustments I also need to make?
Mm.
Especially, I will say I don't know what the Abrahams in my classroom,
Mm-hmm.
growing up, I don't know who they were. I know some
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Um, and I know, I have a really powerful story of two kids who went through the 8 years of Waldorf teaching with me, who have landed in this space
Mm.
in very different ways,
Mm.
but who spoke about it when they were very young
Mm.
and then spoke about it as they grew up.
Oh.
And then I'm still in contact with them as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know what it looks like now.
Mm.
And so I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about that, about the adjustments you made.
Yeah, it really, it boiled down to that showing the vulnerability and showing the danger.
Uh-huh.
Show it.
Right. Right.
Make it, let it hurt.
And these two individuals I'm referring to, they were safe in a Waldorf school.
Oh.
Well, at least this Waldorf school with this Waldorf teacher. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it would have been like for them in other, I think it would have been fine, but I can't really say.
But the other language wasn't soft or anything. It just that it didn't get us close enough to where we needed to be. Like, for example, the lines when the child is sitting in church, those changed.
Right. Okay.
It used to be, it's not what they say in church that bothers me, it's what they don't say.
Got it.
And that's, I've done that in other books. It's too vague.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to get to the shame.
Right. Right.
I needed to say the word shame, and I needed to have the child push it off and be and name it and be like, that's not mine.
Yeah.
I have nothing to be ashamed of.
Right.
And also to, speak it and have it be so, that shame is not coming from God either.
Right.
That's yours. Like
Yeah.
put it back. So that was one place where it just needed to be more specific. And
Okay.
then homophobia scares the hell out of me. That was a new line.
Okay.
Yeah, but we can look at it another time.
Yeah, I think I'm going to really be with it and look through the book. And I'm sure anybody who's listening to this, by the time that happens, then you'll have the next recording. So you all won't have to wait. But I think that I would speak for many, many teachers in that way. And then I have friends who are teachers. They're now retired, but they never shared openly that they were gay.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And then there were also teachers who are very open, and it's and their decisions have been based on lunchroom conversations. That they would enter a lunchroom when first working at a school, and if the conversation is everybody's trying to guess who's gay on a certain TV program, then they're done.
Yeah.
They're done.
Yeah.
And then there's other people who walk into that space and hear that and say, well, I'm gay.
Right. And just stand there and be the challenge, be the disruptor.
Yes.
Whew.
And I think about my uncle who was born, who would be in his 90s now, who always was open
Oh, wow.
always. I mean, he was with one partner who I knew growing up as a little girl, would go to their home, and
Mm,
nothing was ever said to me about it.
mhm.
Nobody ever said we put up with this, but
Right.
and it was nothing. It was just, this is your Uncle Joe and this is your Uncle Max. My Uncle Max was his life partner. And I still write to my Uncle Max.
Mhm.
And my Uncle Joey passed away some time ago, but
Mhm.
so I'm thinking that everyone listening also has these stories.
Right.
I don't think my story is unique, and I don't think yours is either. I think we all have known people,
Mhm.
whether we've known it or not. It's that what you don't know title. So I think maybe, to close this initial conversation about the book, the other thing I'm very interested in is what you don't know. How did that feels really big to me too.
Yeah.
How did you land there for this is what the book is, what you don't know.
It was that decision to put them in this time now, or maybe even a little bit ahead in the future,
Okay.
to set the story a little bit ahead of our times.
Okay.
And then ask the child. I sat down with a blank screen, just like I did with You Ruined It. I had a script.
Right.
And in this instance, for What You Don't Know, I had a script. It wasn't a full script, but I thought I knew which way it was going to go.
Okay.
And I wanted something different. Like, what if I asked myself the question, because my friend Jill Flowers, who I think I've mentioned her here before, who's a soul coach.
Yes, you
He
have.
had said, what if the children are safe, to me? But what if the children are safe? And I brought that to the rewrite. I just brought that question to the rewrite.
Huh.
And then I asked the character in my mind, okay, then what don't I know? And then I let them speak, and that's what came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke with several gay men, friends of mine, from different experiences of racialization and homophobia, and how they experience being gay and Black, and gay and white, and small town, big city,
Mm-hmm.
and 4 men, different experiences of religion, all the things. And I got the church story from one of them, just a little nugget of something from one of them. And I got from another one, I got the idea of the father,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, it wasn't this exact words, but kind of like, but what if the father didn't have a problem?
Right.
What if the father was not challenged in the least by this?
Right.
By the child's unfolding identities, multiple changing
Mm-hmm.
identities.
Mm-hmm.
And so, group fed, group nourished,
Okay.
these beautiful men who are acknowledged in the
Right.
pages of the book, but who, so it was that question, what don't I know?
Okay.
And then identifying the ways that this child is resourcing themselves from the people in their life, from the people they see at school.
Mm-hmm.
And in what ways is that enough to protect them,
Mm-hmm.
and fortify them in the onslaught of anti-Blackness and real hatred
Mm-hmm.
that is coming out, and through everything all
Right.
the time. And so that was it. What You Don't Know was my experience of going into the future and into a really a fictional scene,
Mm-hmm.
and finding out what would make it a liberatory space.
Right. Right.
that
Because the subtitle, a
Yeah,
story of a liberated childhood. Yeah.
right, and the liberatory space as defined by my teachers, Reverend Angel, and and everybody. who's part of that. So
because a lot of times when we hear the reason I wanted to hear you speak to it was because a lot of times we say what you don't know, and we leap to, this is going to be a story about the pain and the anguish and the anxiety I don't know about that you're experiencing, rather than what you don't know is what this could be.
yeah. Yeah.
And I think that you've really, that's why it felt so big to me, because inside of me, I thought, okay, this is about the landscape that we don't dare talk about. You know, what would it be like if it was like this? You know, we don't let ourselves visit that space very often. And I wonder sometimes if those of us who stand in front of children, I think about the deep, deep forest of that for children, that the people standing in front of them are not imagining what they are going to be. Like, they're not imagining, this is the world I'm preparing you for in my classroom. They're not imagining that world. They're preparing their children in front of them for the world that exists now. And that's okay. I can teach you about that world. That's part of it. But if I'm never thinking about the what you don't know as you have no idea where I'm headed.
Right. Let me tell you.
Yes.
You don't know what we're.
Right.
We'll let you know what we know what we need.
Right. And I'm always telling people, why are we having these meetings and there's no children here? Where are the children? Because everything we talk about here, they will live with. You know, where are they? Where are they? Where are the children? And I think I get it now. And I think that is just, it speaks volumes.
It let the book do different things.
Yes. And I want to really dive into that further also. The what you don't know being about that, not you don't know about all the anguish I've experienced.
Right.
Because a lot of times we look at children and we say, I actually do know about that anguish. I've experienced it myself, or I've heard it before. I know your story, but you're going to rise above your story in my classroom. There are a lot of people who feel that way. Like as if your story is something to get out of. Like, and so that brings us full circle to Abraham being told, get the hell out of here. Not saying that's a bad thing, but this whole idea that you have to escape your story in order to survive it.
You have to escape the conditions that would have you killed.
Yes.
You do have to.
Yes.
You have to leave the church.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
If the church hates you, you have to go.
You have to go. All right.
And, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
About Moxie too, because what I didn't know was that kind of coming out was possible.
It's possible. There you go.
The kind of coming out that they were never in. Moxie was never in. Moxie was never like hiding it. Moxie was like, identity was emerging. The sense of himself was emerging. New language. The sense of themselves was emerging. And immediately as it emerged, out it came. Mom, you need to know who I am. And we need to tell Grandma. I was like, I didn't know you could do that. And so, you know, it was.
Yeah. I think I would love to close, leave everybody with that thought.
Okay.
Right. I am who I am, and we need to tell Grandma.
And like, okay. And Grandma's on. All right, Grandma, you're up. How you gonna handle this?
All right. So all the grandmas out there listening. All right.
You handled it wonderfully. Okay, bye.
All right. Mwah. All right. Till next time.
Okay, thank you.